Ruslan.
How do you work through the perfectionist to still put stuff out? Because you've sent me records that I'm like, fam, like this, like put this out, and you're like, I don't, the snare, like I don't know, you know, and I'm like, Andy, this is amazing, like, so like I feel like I've heard a lot of records from you that are like phenomenal, but I know there's that thing inside of you as a creative to want to really make stuff perfect where, you know, again, like a Lecrae or a Jay-Z-esque is going to look more on the utility side and like, is this a good record? Does it sound right? How do you process that? And it seems like you've been really consistent at putting out stuff, surprisingly, right? Which I
Yeah,
know with your personality type, it could be difficult. So just talk
right.
about that.
Yeah, it's this constant fight. Like, and I'm at war in myself. Like, even as I'm talking to you about this now, because even like the album Never Let You Go is getting ready to come out. I'm like, it's not ready. It's not ready. It's not ready.
Mm,
We have a tour this fall. I need to make sure I put it out so we can go on the tour because the tour was booked in January before the album was finished. And so it's all that. It's like, oh, I want to make the most mind blowing album for people, and I'm like, oh, I ran out of time. I got to put it out. But I think that's the story of most artists. And or you can be like Jay Electronica, you know what I'm saying, and just be like, I'm going away for 10 years. I hope you guys are still waiting for me when I come back. And that's the tension. It's like I could work on this album for 4 years, and by the time I
yeah.
get ready to put it out, all those kids that were freshmen, they're in high school, they're freshmen in college now. Like they might be on a different wave. So you have to ride that line of perfecting and developing something, but also not leaving people waiting too long if you're trying to build something. And I still feel like, as much as the successes I've had, I still feel like I'm a new artist.
Hmm.
Like, I still feel like I'm a new artist to the rest of the world. I might be known in kind of a niche, but to the 99% else of the world, I'm like still a brand new artist. So I'm like, oh, I still got to put my foot on their neck and like keep coming out with stuff every few months, at least once a year, as I've tried to do over the past 10 years. So yeah, the perfectionist. Somebody said this in a interview. I forgot the exact quote, but it was like, perfectionism is like what people settle for, or achievement is what people settle for when they don't feel loved. And I
Mm,
don't think I've ever felt so naked hearing a statement. But it's like,
mm,
achievement is one of the things I think I lean on quite a bit in my own personality type. I'm a three, which, like, I'm an achiever, I'm a performer, and I'm always trying to achieve and push myself. And I think a lot of that stems from like the brokenness I felt in my life, like not
mm,
feeling loved, feeling abandoned. You know what I mean? So
mm.
I'm like, I'm gonna show you through achievement. I'm gonna be something. I might not feel like something, like I matter, I
Mm.
belong. So I'm gonna go get that through achievement.
Wow.
And so, like, I think that's why I push myself further and further and further. And it's also just desire to push into new sounds and find new things and innovate. And
Hmm.
to do that takes a lot of time. And like this new Kanye album you just heard, right?
Hmm.
Like, I saw someone talking about it. They were like, "What's the process working like with Kanye?" And they're like, you got to go in and lay demos, and then you lay more demos, and then you lay more demos, and then it's demos and demos." And the guy was just like, you could tell he was exhausted. Like, yo, we worked on so many ideas.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you get to innovation, is you have to try a lot of things, fail a lot, to try to stumble upon something special or unique. And even though I know how to make a good song, typically I'm trying to find how to make not just a good song, but like an innovative song. And I don't always get there. Most of the time
Mm.
I don't, but it's usually because I run out of time, and I also run out of resources because I exhaust the people I work with. So I'll be like, honestly, me and Kanye create very similarly. Like, I went to the studio where he created one of the studios, Parhelion, in Atlanta,
Uh-huh.
where he
Uh-huh.
worked on Late Registration. And I was asking Ralph, the engineer there, I was like, yo, he worked here for that. Like, how did he
Mhm.
work?
Mhm.
And I had Rory and Beam, and I had like a whole bunch of people in the studio. And
Yeah.
he's like, just like you're working right now. He's like, three,
Mm.
4 different rooms filled out, trying a million different ideas, jumping in and out of studios. And I was like, wow, we have like a similar workflow. Kanye is
Mhm.
like my muse, right?
Mhm.
So um I a lot of people will go the distance creatively with him if he's like, do it 10 more times.
Mhm.
because he's Kanye, right?
I see where
But
you're
if I'm like, do it 10 more times, like we got to find something different. People be like, bro, I got places I got to be. You know what I'm saying? Like,
going.
you're burning me out. And a lot of people will go the distance, like shout out Ace, from Reach Records and some
Yeah.
of the other guys I create with. But I run that risk pretty regularly of like burning people out trying to create with them. And that's a tough thing because you don't want to work with somebody and work them to death. And then when it's time to work with them again, they're like, I'm good. Like that was a nightmare. Like Steve Jobs gets a lot of crap for that. Like even though he innovated, did amazing things, people were like a nightmare to work with in the biographies and stuff because he was always pushing and pushing and pushing. So, I think I'm a people pleaser too. So I want to please the people around me in my team and be like, all right, we delivered a project, let's go. Even though it's never really finished to me.
Yeah,
So.
the beautiful part is that at least you have the self-awareness and the practical tools to know all these things about yourself. So at the least you can attempt to mitigate some of this stuff.
Sure.
You know what I mean? When you know, or even just set expectations like, hey guys, this is what it's like to work with me. Just know up front, right? And I think that's always good. What did you make of the Donda album and some of the parallels? I think of like Coming in Hot and what Donda is, again, music from Christians for people versus music from Christians for Christians. And I think you were at one of the listening parties, if I'm not mistaken, right? So what did you think you went to the first one where it was like really demo rough, not mixed.
I went to the first one.
What do you make of Donda and just that whole thing?
I think hearing actually all the listening parties kind of took away some of the wonder and the excitement of listening to the album the first time for me.
Okay.
Because I was like, oh, I've already heard these, and I heard like a bunch of versions of, and so hearing the album was like, I was also in a bad mood that day, but I was, there's incredibly beautiful moments on there, and like the last time I cried listening to music was Kanye's Ghost Town. At the end of that, and the end of that song is like, I put my hand on the stove just to see if I still bleed. Nothing hurts anymore. And I was in the airport, like it had just come out.
I remember, you said that,
like washing my hands, and I started crying. I was just like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So he always finds a way to make like touching, beautiful, real music. I think he did that on Donda. And then I think the track list was like a little messy, and I don't know if that was, he's saying like the label pushed him to put it out or whatever, and so he didn't get to finish it. But I think it's a little bloated. Like he probably could have cut out a few songs, and then like maybe found a different track list, and it would have. He doesn't need to listen to me. My opinion doesn't really matter. He's the GOAT. What are we talking about? There's some beautiful moments on there. A lot of my friends were on there that worked on that. OG Volta did like 19 tracks on there, and they worked on my album with me and John Bellion for The Sword. So like them, I know Vori was on there. Ant Clemens, a lot of the homies. So it was cool to see that. But what does my opinion matter anyways? Nobody cares about my opinion.
I think people
be honest, like he's Kanye, it's great.
Kingstream Entertainment, Ruslan.
When the culture says do what you love, we respond with love what you do. You may have responsibilities that you aren't passionate about, but loving what you do means being faithful to what's in front of you, committing to excellence as if that were your greatest dream. Colossians 3:23 says, work diligently at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people.
Love what you do. Love what you do.
Kingstream Entertainment, Ruslan.
Yo, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. If you found it valuable, considering giving it a like and subscribing. This month, I'm releasing the Love What You Do collection. And to celebrate, I'm doing a 3-day virtual event to help us go from learning to love what we do to ultimately doing what we love. By the way, it's free, so hit the link in the description to grab your seat today.